My name is Tracy and I'm from physical therapy here at St. John Hospital and Medical Center. I'm here to present to you today a little bit about using a gait belt or safety belt or transfer belt and showing you how to safely use it along with safe body mechanics with your patients. So a little bit about the history of this belt, which we've just named. This belt can be used for leverage, for steering, for helping transfer patients from surface to surface. It is a belt that can be found by asking your manager to order it from our central supply, the gait belt webbing roll, through your OmniBuyer access on your computer. Generally, we cut it about the length of your arms from side to side is about the average length you'll need for each patient. If it becomes soiled, you want to throw it out, obviously, and cut a new one. If a patient is in contact isolation, you're going to take the belt and give this to that patient, keep it in their night table, use it with them each time you see the patient, and then when they're discharged from the hospital, you want to throw this away. Obviously, this is not an apparatus that you would leave on our psych unit, and so that's a little bit of the background of the gait belt. To place the gait belt safely around a patient, you want to put it around their waist. The way I usually teach gait belt placement is the single tying of like how you tie a shoelace, and then simply making half a bow and pulling it up through. This is also known as the quick release with restraint tying, so that you can get it off your patient just as quickly. You want to avoid any abdominal incisions with this. If the patient has, say, a pregnant belly, abdominal incisions, a peg tube, etc., you don't want to place this over. You may have to reposition this up under their arms. That's not ideal, but that's possible. You want to also use this gait belt when you're ambulating a patient so that you have leverage, steering, and some assist with balance. You never want to grab under a patient's armpits to damage anybody with shoulder problems, and you don't want to harm them when getting them up, so you do want to use gait belt for steering, leverage, and safety. So now some safety points and tips when working with your patients. First of all, make sure you explain to your patient what you are about to do. A lot of patients can do a lot better with you transferring from surface to surface or moving around if you just simply explain to them this is what we're going to do, especially when you're using a gait belt or safety belt. I've had patients before say, oh, that looks like a dog leash, or they become almost offended you want to put something like that on them. So you need to explain to your patient this is a safety belt or a transfer belt, and it's to help you assist them safely from surface to surface, kind of put the patient at ease. Also, I would recommend you put the onus on the patient. The more you ask your patient to do, the less, hopefully, will be of a burden to yourself. So you want to tell the patient when you're moving that, Mrs. Smith, I want you to help me stand up. I want you to help me take steps and move to the next surface. As opposed to saying, Mrs. Smith, I'm going to help put you in the chair. Because if you tell them you're going to help put them in the chair, 90% of the time, they're probably going to let you do the work and put them in the chair. So we want to avoid the work on you and let the patient do the most they can. When you're transferring them, say from a bed to a chair, make sure you transfer them towards their strong side. So say you have a hemiplegic side or an injury side, you want to actually turn either the chair where they're going to towards their strong side. So getting out of bed, have them move towards the strong side, and again, to get back in bed, you may have to move that chair around. Going towards their strong side helps them assist you. 99% of the time, if a patient's going to be weak or buckle or lose their balance, it's going to be towards their weak or affected side. So make sure you're always going towards their strong side. Likewise, when you're ambulating your patients and you have a gait belt on them, it's good to stand to about a 45-degree angle and also off to their weaker side or affected side. If they're going to lose their balance again or buckle, it's usually going to be to that side. So that's where you want to position yourself. You also want to make sure you lock the surfaces you're going from and going to. If you have a chair that has wheels, lock them first. If you have a bed, obviously the bed's all locked. Even shove them with your body to make sure they're locked. Sometimes the locks, if they're not working properly, you may give a shove, and if they roll, you're going to make sure that bed gets switched out so the locks work. But you want to make sure it's locked before getting your patient up so the bed doesn't start to roll away as you get your patient up. Also, considerations are watching your lines as you're moving the patient from one surface to the other, making sure that all their IV lines, catheters, etc. go with them. So now we're going to show you how to transfer a patient from surface to surface using a transfer belt. We know OSHA guides for women say that you should lift no more than 45 pounds, and we know obviously our patients weigh more than 45 pounds. So you want to make sure that the patient is going to be able to give you enough physical assistance to be safe for you. You may need a second person with you for safety of the transfer, or you may need to get some of our lift equipment to help get the patient from one surface to another if they require that much physical assistance. So again, we talked about telling the patient what this is. This is a gait belt or a safety belt, and I'm going to put it around your waist to help you transfer to the chair. You're going to give me as much assistance as you can in a minute. So it's also important for you as the nursing assistant, the nurse, therapist, whoever's working with the patient, to also use proper body mechanics. It's very important when you work with a patient that you lock your back kind of by sticking out your rear end so you have that normal lordotic curve, that you also use your legs to use for power, both to help the patient stand up and transfer, and I will demonstrate that in a minute. You don't want to hunch or stoop over a patient, which can open your back towards injury. And I'm going to show you now how we're going to do a transfer. So Mr. Smith, would you please scoot forward to the edge of your chair? I'm going to place this belt around your waist for safety, and I want you to help me when I tell you to get to this other chair. What I'd like you to do next is you're going to put your hands on the chair arms, and when I tell you, we're going to stand up together and we're going to take steps to the other chair. When you feel the chair on the back of your legs, you're going to reach down to those chair arms and slowly lower yourself to sit. Okay? Okay. So you're going to put your hands on the chair arms, and on the count of 3, you're going to stand up with me. 1, 2, 3, and then take steps with me to the chair, all the way back until you feel the chair on the back of your legs. Reach down for the chair arms and slowly have a seat. Perfect. Now scoot back in the chair, and that's your transfer. So some final thoughts about transferring your patient. Make sure that you always take steps as you saw demonstrated in the video. Always make sure that your feet are moving and taking steps with the patient from surface to surface. You never want to twist, which could open your back to injury. Make sure the feet are moving with your patient as you do this. Also, make sure the patient never puts their arms or hands around your neck or shoulders. That could cause an injury to yourself. You could lose your balance, and it could be a big problem. You also want to make sure you keep yourself strengthened to prevent injury. Exercises for your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, making sure you're keeping yourself in shape as well as your core provides extra assistance when you're working with your patients so that you have the power to squat safely, to help the patient stand, and intervene as necessary. This last segment will demonstrate how you should ambulate with your patients using a gait or safety belt. The belt's been placed around the patient, and I'm standing to this patient's right side. So if this was their affected side, hemiplegic injury side, this is where I want to be. If they're going to lose their balance or buckle, 9 times out of 10 it's going to happen to this side. I like to be at a 45-degree angle because not only do I have control over this side, I can also look at the patient's face. I can see, are they getting fatigued or out of breath while they're walking? Is their color changing? Are they starting to sweat? I need to make sure I'm paying attention to physiological signs as well. So this provides me a good view of the patient as well as control. I also like to be right here. In the event the patient were to start to buckle, I could get my thigh underneath the patient where I could either have them rest on my thigh if they're not losing consciousness and they can still help me a bit, where I can use my legs to help them back to a standing position, or maybe for either a minute to get someone to bring a chair to that patient to sit them down, or to safely slide them down to the floor, calling for assistance right away. So walking with this patient, we're going to just walk forward. I'm off to their right side. How are you doing? That looks great. If I need to intervene, you can see I'm kind of holding the belt in the back. So thank you very much for watching this video today. I hope it provided you with some good tips and awareness about how to transfer and walk with your patient using a gait or safety belt. If you need further assistance, please never hesitate to call the Physical Therapy Department or Rehab Services here at the hospital at extension 33744.